Yeah, yeah, that's off the dome. Off the dome.
All right, episode 1. We're starting with something that goes directly against what the industry is saying right now. Door knocking is not dead.
I agree. It's definitely not dead. That's for sure.
Yeah, well, because if you've been in roofing for any amount of time lately, you've heard it nonstop. Door knocking does not work. Homeowners hate it. It's outdated. But 9 times out of 10, the person that's saying that is either selling an ad already so far removed from the grind that they forgot how they got there.
I agree. I think for the most part, I don't think it's dead. I think it's an inconvenience, right? No one likes to do things that are inconvenient to them. Like you said, homeowners are not too appreciative of 50 people knocking on their doors. But at the end of the day, I mean, when it comes to what you and I do on a daily basis, I think it's a necessity still.
No, absolutely. And I think that's what this episode is really about, is context and what works in one stage of a company. You know, a $10 million company it's not exactly the blueprint for a $0 company, right? A fresh company just starting, it's on its first legs, or in the crawling phase, actually. So I think there are 3 main reasons that this idea that door knocking is dead exists. First is going to be marketing agencies. They need you to believe that if door knocking still worked, right, or you believe it still works, you wouldn't need to buy their leads.
Correct.
Right? Secondly, I think late stage owners, you know, once you get to the $5 million point, the $10 million point in your company, you've got brand awareness, you have trucks, you have referrals, you have reviews, and most importantly, you have money, right? So of course, you don't need to focus on knocking doors as much as, say, John, who just started John's Roofing Company, right? He has 0 reviews. He has no trucks. He probably doesn't have his company logo on the side of his truck anyways. So he has virtually 0 brand awareness, right? He's not even found his own brand yet. But just because that channel stops working for those bigger companies doesn't mean it stopped working. It just means that they graduated past it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, at the end of the day, you know, anyone, and it really doesn't matter what kind of business you're in, it's touching people, meeting people, getting to know people, making friends. How can you be of service to somebody, right? What I find is especially if I'm on an install right now, I'm knocking doors while I'm doing an install because I want to meet people. I want to see where they're at in their process of replacing their hail damaged roof. And that's why it's important for me to talk to as many people as I can. And unfortunately, knocking on a door is pretty much the easiest way of doing that.
No, absolutely. I mean, door knocking provides what I like to call, or what everybody likes to call, an immediate feedback loop.
Correct.
Right? You know, after a full day of door knocking, you hit 100 homes, you're going to know whether your pitch sucks, right? You're going to know whether you sound unconfident. You're able to analyze that between door to door and progressively get better throughout the day. Whereas something like SEO management takes weeks to figure out if it works or not. And, you know, that's a skill that takes, I mean, even advertising online, right? That's a skill that takes a tremendous amount of effort, right? Still to get good at and to start getting good at and to see results. And, you know, you can't just run an ad for one day and see it doesn't perform and switch the ad, right? That's not necessarily how that works. But with door knocking, right, you can see that you don't sound confident on door 1, right? And you can try and adjust on the next door and progressively get better throughout the day, right? That immediate feedback loop is so important, especially for new reps, you know, building confidence, right? With each door that they go to, you know, provided they have the right mindset and they don't get into a negative feedback loop, provided they have the right mindset, they're going to get better and better each day. They're going to get better and better each hour, you know, as long as they're intentional with what they're doing and what they're saying and giving themselves advice and making changes between each door, right?
I agree with that. I mean, let's be realistic. Practice makes perfect, right? The more you practice, the better you're going to get at. You know, and with that comes experience too. With your experience that you get at the door, and to where you really find out where a neighborhood is at. You know, I mean, are we 1 week? Are we 1 day, 1 week, or 1 month after a hailstorm?
Yeah.
Right? Are we seeing a bunch of denials from insurance companies? Are insurance companies saying, you know what, this is just wind. It's not a big deal. But by door knocking, you actually really get to almost like an investigation where you're kind of seeing where a neighborhood is at. But more importantly, if you go in with the attitude that, hey, look, I'm of service. I'm going to see how many people I can help today. If you're just door banging and hoping that you can catch somebody, I'm knocking and I'm trying to make a friend, right? And I'm also trying to see where I can help somebody in their process of replacing a roof.
No, absolutely. And really, heart posture is something we'll talk about here in a little bit, but heart posture, makes a big difference in your results in door knocking, right?
Absolutely.
But the third type of reason that this narrative exists that door knocking sucks or door knocking doesn't work anymore is, convincing new companies that door knocking is dead absolutely reduces the competition, right? While you're struggling to figure out SEO optimization and struggling to figure out how to run ads and how to optimize ads, and you're learning that skill set, I'm banging down doors, right? You missed this hail season flailing about on meta ads, right? As a new company with zero brand recognition, zero trust,
right.
There's no factors in there that anybody can see to have a reason to trust you from an online ad, right? You have 0 reviews or very few reviews. Your logo, they haven't seen your trucks driving around. They haven't seen your trucks in the neighborhood. They haven't seen your logo before, right? So while you're flailing around trying to get roofs sold based off of ads, right? I'm door knocking, right? I'm crushing the doors. I'm hitting the fresh storm a day after I'm on the doors, right? And I'm getting in front of homeowners. And it's a lot easier to sell yourself and sell your company or your product when you're face-to-face with somebody, right? Not having your logo doesn't really matter, right? Not having your logo on the side of the trucks, not having a billboard on the side of, I-35 down here. None of that really matters when you're face-to-face with somebody because people buy people. They buy people and they buy trust. They don't buy the company logo or how cool your trucks look, right? I mean, at least sane people, right? They're not buying because you have the coolest wrapped truck in Temple or in Georgetown or in Austin, Texas, right?
Well, you hit it on the head. I mean, here's the reality is that when you feel comfortable with somebody, you're more inclined to talk to them, right?
Yeah.
So, is it an inconvenience to have someone banging on your door all day long after a hailstorm? Absolutely. But I always tell people that the more you talk to people, customers in our case, right? The more you talk to them, the more you get to know where they're at in the process, what their concerns are, the more trust you're building. People are going to sit there and say, you know what, I like this guy. Art and Ian, those guys are pretty cool. They kind of walked me through the process. They asked me if I knew exactly what the process was because a lot of people don't know what the process is.
No, absolutely.
It's a huge inconvenience. One day your roof is fine. The next day it's beat up. It needs to be replaced because if you wait too long, it's going to start leaking. Then you're going to have collateral damage. So there's a lot of things that go into it. So when I approach somebody at the door and I'm speaking to them, I'm really trying to make a friend, right? Mm-hmm. So if I would say out of 10 doors that I knock, 3 or 4 of them are impactful, right? Where I'm actually finding out some information, what's going on, where the customer is at. When's the last time you had your roof replaced? Even questions like that are kind of open-end questions that kind of get people engaged in a conversation as opposed to, hey, bang on the door and say, hey, I'll give you a free inspection. Well, what's that going to do? They've been offered that 30 times already. Yeah. How can you help somebody? So if you can help me make the process easier to go through this, then I'm all about listening to you. And that's kind of the approach I always try to take.
No, absolutely. And let's get into this, man. What's the ROI reality of door knocking, right? Let's just strip all the emotion off of it, right? Door knocking is a grind. Door knocking is hard. Mm-hmm. It's far harder than sitting at your desk and playing with the computer, trying to generate revenue from ads, right? Mm-hmm. But door knocking has a zero acquisition cost. It
Correct.
costs nothing but time to do, right? And there are two stages a company, especially a business owner, will go through, right? There will be a time where you have unlimited time, very little money, right? And there will be a different stage in your company that you'll grow into where you have a limited time, but a lot of money, right? And the way you operate those two different companies is not the same, right? Right now, the beginning stages of a company, right? This is who we're primarily talking to, is brand new roofing companies, right? Because like we said before, what works for a $10 million roofing company is not going to be the most efficient thing for a brand new roofing company, right? Because they have two different resource packages, right? That $10 million company has a lot of capital to throw around. They have a lot of capital to waste money testing ads, right? They have that buffer where they're still going to make a return on their investment, right? Whereas the brand new company, if you only have $1,000 in your bank account and you go throw that all towards ads, right? How much money did you spend on how much money did you waste testing where you got 0 views because you didn't know how a hero line works, or taglines, or hashtagging, or all the different aspects that go into that, right? Whereas when you take what is the most valuable resource, time, right? But that's your only resource at the beginning. You take that and you apply it to door knocking, right? You're going to see far more results for far less money, right? Like I said, door knocking costs the sweat that it takes to actually walk door to door, and the time that it takes to be out there consistently enough to hit as many doors as you need to see that return on investment, right? And I think that would be my biggest point is, as a brand new company, a lot of people nowadays are trying to take the shortcut. I mean, that's how business has always been, right? The shortcut wins, and that's how the marketing agencies get these young companies to fork over money that they don't have and money that they haven't made yet, is by telling them that this is the way business is done 100% from the jump. And if they couldn't get people to believe that, obviously they would be out of business, right?
Correct.
So I guess my question to you would be, in your opinion, starting from day one, $0 in the bank account, fresh new company, what's the first thing you're doing to start generating revenue?
For me, I'm getting out in the neighborhoods.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm going into neighborhoods that I know that were hit 3 months ago, and I'm seeing what was missed.
No, absolutely.
Right? Because how many times have we gone into a neighborhood and said, yeah, I remember this 6 months ago, the hail was 1 3/4 inches and everything was pretty messed up. And then but yet you still see a bunch of homes that have not been repaired. Yeah. And so the first thing I'm saying to myself is, why? Why haven't we had all these roofs replaced? Why is there like only 50% of the roofs replaced? How do you find that out? You start door knocking because you want to find out what's the status. You got denied. Why did you get denied? Things like that. So it's an investigation, right? You're really trying to kind of figure out where everybody is in their process. It could be a large deductible, right? Did they have financing available to them to help them with the deductible?
Yeah.
Right? Did they run into a company that's prepared to offer those kind of services? To make sure that, like right now, we know that the roof is damaged, but, in 6 months when the shingles and the granules start coming off and all of a sudden we have collateral damage, we have rain, we have mold, we have things like that we have to worry about that may or may not be covered down the road because why? They didn't get it taken care of.
Yeah.
Right. And so all insurance companies, they have things in their policies that basically says like a maintenance policy. If you don't maintain your roof, they could take money away from you. So if a $20,000 roof is damaged and they have a $3,000 deductible, well, that's $17,000 to the good, right?
Yeah.
So, but if they don't take care of that within the first year, they could conceivably start getting non-depreciable, which basically means they can find it in their own best interest to say, hey, you know what? You should have taken care of this before. Now you have collateral damage, and so it's going to cost you an additional $10,000.
Yeah.
So now instead of being out $3,000 to replace that $20,000 roof, you might be out of pocket $10,000. And so that's why I feel when I'm knocking on a door, I'm trying to help people so that they don't get into that predicament. You know, how many times have we done that in the last 10 roofs that we've done? That about 70% of them had issues like that where the the insurance company did not want to cover it.
Yeah.
And what do we have to do? We had to go get a public adjuster involved to fight for the customer. So ultimately, as a company, if the more that you could help people, the more you could help the customer, the homeowner, get everything put back to where it was before the hail damage, the more valuable you become. And the reason why I love the door knock still is I like to make sure people know that we're here to help. We're here to get you through the process. And what better advertisement can you get is other than word of mouth? Word of mouth is the best advertisement you get. Typically, after a hailstorm, we both get how many calls? We get a bunch of calls from people we've already helped.
Yeah.
So, and that process only happens if you're meeting people and you're talking to them and you're creating friendships and trust. More importantly, trust, right?
No,
Because they don't know us from anywhere unless they're referred. But if they don't know us, we have to build that trust. And the way you do that is by helping people. Remember the story we always talk about, that 98-year-old lady who owned her home in Copper's Cove. She got denied 3 times, bro.
Yeah.
3 times. And that poor thing, she made me feel so bad. I mean, do you remember I walked away from there crying almost? I'm thinking, man, how can I help this lady? And we finally got a public adjuster involved, and her roof is paid for in full.
Yeah.
All she had to pay for is her deductible. That right there. I don't even remember how much we made off that job. All I know is I felt like I was of service. I helped a nice old lady that was just a sweetheart. She was absolutely a sweetheart. And this is why we do what we do.
No, exactly. I mean, the thing about talking face-to-face and in person with people, right, is you get to convey your own story, right? You can't, through many years of branding and advertising and, with an exceptional skill in advertising to begin with, you can slowly create your story online. But nothing sells a story like it coming out of your own mouth.
Right.
Them seeing the testimony in front of you, right? And that's honestly, in my humble opinion, between all the sales guru advice and all the sales advice that I've ever seen online or I've ever consumed myself, paid for and winning consumed, my biggest piece of sales advice to anybody is develop your story and develop your testimony. It will sell more than anything that your company has to offer. Right now, of course, your offer for the company has to be good. You have to differentiate yourself, right? If the only thing you have to offer is your story or your background in whatever you do, right? Whether that's gutters, roofing, solar, right? If that's the only thing you have to offer and your offer isn't actually different than anybody else's, right? Yeah, you'll get sales, right? Because stories sell and people buy people, right? But your offer also is a key point of that. And if you can perfect your offer and perfect your story and your narrative, right, and your heart posture behind why you're doing what you're doing, right, and you can convey that to a customer and they feel like they're being served rather than sold, right, if they feel like they're being helped rather than, they're a check for you at the end of the day and you're going to go, do whatever with it. I think that is far more powerful, especially in the beginning stages of the company.
Absolutely.
Far more powerful for getting your name out there. Right. Now, to circle back, right, the immediate feedback loop that you're able to get off of door knocking, it's brutal, right? But I think in a really good way, right? Like we said earlier, or I said earlier, you get on the doors for a day, right? You'll immediately have notes to go home and to work on. Right. Even between doors.
But take notes.
Yeah,
right?
no, exactly.
Absolutely.
As long as you're intentional with every step of, you should be intentional with every step of everything you do. Right. But focusing that first couple of months or first year or two specifically on door knocking and developing that skill. One, door knocking and selling face-to-face is a skill that if you develop, right, and you work really intentional on developing the skill of selling face-to-face and sales period, and the mindset that you have to be in to be able to take that kind of how do you say it? That kind of negativity, right? Yeah, because, being on the doors is brutal, right? You get doors slammed on you. It sucks. That's why a lot of people don't like doing it. They feel like they're being a nuisance to homeowners, right? But also with that, I think it's a lot about how you do it and your presence in the neighborhood.
Well, what's funny is that story of the older lady that we helped. Do you remember we had a new salesperson that day, and I went out there and we were door banging, right? So I was like, "Hey, man, see that roof right there?" I tell the guy, I go, "It's got a hole. I see 2 or 3 holes. So go knock on that door. That is a roof that we need to replace. It needs to be replaced."
Yeah,
absolutely. Easy. It's a visual thing. We could see it plain as day.
Yeah.
He goes up to the door, and the door opens, and I could see the older lady, and all of a sudden he comes back, and I'm thinking, oh, this is great. He's got a lead, right? Everybody wants a lead. And he says, no, man, she started yelling at me. I go, what do you mean she started yelling at you? I go, well, doesn't she know she needs a roof, right?
Yeah.
He says, well, the reality is that she knows, but she's been denied already. And I guess I inconvenienced her because she was getting ready to jump in the shower.
Yeah.
Right? So he gets back in the car, and we're sitting down, and I'm thinking, man, this just doesn't seem right. I mean, because I could tell she was, an older lady, Let's see what we can do to help her. So I purposely waited there for about 40 minutes. I figured I'd give her enough time to get out of the shower, get dressed, right? Yeah. And go up there and door knock. So do you remember the guy? He was all like, oh, man, I'm not going to go up there. That was embarrassing, man. She yelled at me. She cursed me out and everything. So I go up purposely. I knock on the door, and I introduce myself. Hey, my name is Art Espinoza, Nine Line Roofing. Just want you to know, I understand you talked to my buddy already. And I know that he mentioned that he was going to give you a free inspection. And she says, yeah, well, you know what? My insurance sucks, and they're terrible, and they don't do anything. And the first question I asked her, I said, hey, how many times have you had your roof replaced? Have you ever filed a claim before? She says, well, actually, I never have. I go, well, how long have you been living here? She goes, I've been living here since 1970. I said, wow, that's awesome. Yeah. You've been living here since 1970? What a blessing. She goes, yeah, I was married for 55 years. My husband passed like 5 years ago. And now I'm over here, and I don't know what to do. And I don't know, who to call. And apparently my daughter had called the insurance, and they denied us. And so I really have no choices. And the reality is, I think my roof is leaking. I said, well, I guarantee your roof is leaking. I said, well, how about this, ma'am? What if I can get you in contact with your insurance company? I'll sit down with you. We can make this call together and talk to them about where you are in the process. See if I can get them to come out and do the inspection. I'll be here for the inspection. I'll help you through that process. And let's just see if we can get this denial turned around so that you can get a brand new roof. And how about this? What if I upgrade your shingle? Would you be interested in something like that? She says, well, that sounds like a pipe dream, but if you're willing to take the time to do that, sure, I would be willing to do that. Yeah. And it wasn't that I was any better than the guy that knocked on the door before, but what I did offer was I offered the customer options. Yeah. I also offered them the opportunity to help them guide them through the system. Yeah. And it's it's one thing to have gone through that, filed a claim and done all that stuff 2 or 3 times and be experienced with that process. But if you're not experienced with that, especially at this lady's age, she didn't have time for that stuff. So, but we spent about 45 minutes to maybe an hour and 10 minutes to help her through the process. We got it inspected, and guess what? We got that denial turned around after 2 or 3 denials. It might have been 3. But man, that was just a great day for me. You know what I mean? I wasn't even counting the fact that I was going to make any kind of money off the deal or anything like that. I just wanted to help this lady out because she needed help, to be honest with you.
No, absolutely. And I think that goes a lot, or very clearly, into heart posture on the doors, right?
Absolutely.
Heart posture and sales period, right? The first, our new sales rep, he knocked on the door. He's still there to make money, right? He still has his heart set towards money. He hadn't been, fully stripped of that yet, right? So when she yells and curses, he doesn't see a frustrated homeowner who needs to be taken care of. He's seen, for lack of better words, he's seen an asshole, right? He's seen, he's seen
a difficult customer.
Yeah, a difficult customer, a difficult person, but you heard right? And you, with the heart posture that you have, wanting to be of service, you heard a angry, frustrated woman who doesn't have her husband there to help her
Right.
take care of certain things anymore that she, likely hasn't taken care of, since her husband passed, and she likely wasn't taken care of for the 55 years that they were married, right?
Right.
So when your heart posture is changed towards that, right, and you're actually trying to be of service, when you're getting cussed out on the doors, you can hear past that and see the actual frustration. It's not because you knocked on the door. It's because she's already been through the circus before and she doesn't want to go through it again because she's already been told no 2 or 3 times, right? So heart posture on the doors, you want to get the most out of it. You have to fix your heart posture, and that's easier said than done, right? Getting rid of...
But how do you get that, though? Yeah, and you get that through experience, right?
Yeah, no,
By
absolutely.
banging, I promise you. I've had people yell at me, man, get off my property, and you're a nuisance, and screaming and cursing, using all kinds of profanities and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And you walk away, you just, okay, well, have a great day. You just walk away and just have a positive attitude about it.
Yeah.
But I had to go through a lot of those, and I know you have too.
Yeah.
We've been through a lot of negative responses from people, especially after a neighborhood's been hit for like the 3rd time in 1 year.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I look at that. I didn't look at that, to be honest with you, in the beginning.
Yeah.
I used to think, oh, man, God, this is a great opportunity. But I didn't look at the idea that this is the 3rd time in 8 months as this person's looking dead in the eye at another deductible.
Yeah, this is...
Right? so once you embrace the experiences of door banging and just being there all the time and just getting to know, you get a niche. You start realizing by talking to someone exactly where they're at and exactly how you can help them. And the quicker you can convey how you can be of service and how you can help them through the process, the better the experience becomes, like instantly. I mean, like right away. It's not like, the old adage is, well, I ran into a salesperson, right?
Yeah.
This guy actually sounded like he knew what he was talking about, and he was able to help me. So I probably would still have my old roof if I didn't run into a salesperson.
No, absolutely.
And that's the reality. But that takes experience. I wish, and maybe down the road we could write a book of something like, in regard to this subject. But I wish that I could tell you that it was just the easiest thing for me. And I love to talk to people. You know me.
Yeah.
I talk to anybody. I don't care. But there are people who are shy by nature. And if you're shy, you have to kind of put your foot in the water, right, before you go to jump in or dive in. So that's a part of the process is putting your foot in the water, door knocking as much as you possibly can. I've had, how many salespeople have we hired where they've said, gosh, that sounds like a lot of fun. I'm going to just be knocking on a complete stranger's door. We never get that,
None
right? We always get that. Like, I don't know. That's like that one thing that everybody talks about this industry that, hey, you know what? We're not going to embrace that. So maybe I should find something else to do.
Yeah.
That's usually what we get.
Yeah. I mean, it's... for the amount of effort that it takes to door knock and the return on investment, right? The return on investment isn't always just money, right? There's a skill set that comes with door knocking that you almost can't get anywhere else, right? The grit, the determination, the confidence that you get from actually gaining the skills to become proficient at door knocking, those are skills you can't really gather anywhere else, right? That real world, raw experience, that immediate feedback, right? You're stumbling over your pitch in the middle and they're not nice about it, right? The homeowners that are going to grill you about it, they're not nice about it, right? You get that immediate, that guy, right? That
super nervous.
Yeah.
Seems suspect.
And the skills that you gain from that and the training that you can almost take yourself through, right? Granted, you want to work with the company that has training and they're going to back you and support you ongoing, but the skills that you develop even by yourself, if you're intentionally door knocking and intentionally taking notes between doors and mental notes, right? You don't want to pen and paper and taking a bunch of time in between doors, right? You want to be efficient with your time, but taking mental notes between each door, gosh, why didn't I sound confident? Why, because they came out with an attitude, why did I have a problem objecting to that, right? Why did I have a problem overcoming that, right? And you take all these mental notes and you can apply them on the next door, which is great, or you can go home with them, think about them, digest them, and then move on the next day. Right. And that immediate feedback loop that we were talking about earlier, I think that is by far, in monetary value over the long run, that is by far more valuable than the dollars you'll make.
Correct.
Door knocking at that beginning stage of the company. Correct.
Right? It's an investment really in your company, right?
Yeah.
So that's absolutely an investment. And the other thing is too, is that people talk about a pitch at the door, right? So you knock on the door and you have this pitch, you back up, you turn a little sideways, you make yourself more approachable, easier to talk to, right? And so I always tell people, hey, look, if there's the perfect pitch, we could all be using that pitch verbatim, right?
Yeah.
If there was just this absolutely home run hitter of a pitch, and I've been blessed. I've met a couple people who were pretty impressive. They had some really legit pitches. What I noticed was the pitch is one thing, but what was more important to me, especially with people, is the conversation. Right?
No, absolutely.
You have a conversation with people. I literally was able to secure a project where the guy had 3 Harleys in his garage, and he had the most beautiful green grass in this town in Taylor. I mean, it looked like a golf course grass. It was just immaculate. In my conversation, it never went into a pitch. It was like, hey, how's it going, man? My name's Art. I'm with 9 Line Roofing. Hey, man, I just got to tell you, man, you have the most beautiful green grass I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
This lawn literally is like a golf course. You know, who does your yard? He said, well, I do it. I said, man, that's incredible, man. You must put a lot of work into it. And I said, oh, yeah, I noticed you have a couple Harleys, man. I have a Harley as well. He said, you do? I said, yeah. So for about 30 minutes, we were talking about Harleys.
Yeah.
You know, I had a Street Glide at the time, and I think he had a Road Glide and a little Roadster. And I was like, man, so what we did, what I did is I conjured up a conversation with this gentleman. And he and I saw eye to eye on a lot of things, you know. And then after a while, before you knew it, I started, hey, I know for a fact that you've had plenty of different companies knocking on your door about, you know, having your roof inspected. I go, you do realize that you had a hailstorm on May 1st, right? He was all like, well, no, actually, I was out of town. I didn't even realize it. And I said, okay, well, cool. I said, well, I'm in the area. You know, I have no problem getting on your roof, taking a bunch of pictures. If you're lucky, you have no damage, and we could shake hands and part as friends. But if you do have damage, have you ever filed a claim before for hail damage? And he said, no, I never have. And there I was, you know, I started talking to him about how we could help him. So all that is, I don't get wrapped up into the pitch as much. Yeah. I always have like a base pitch that I utilize, that I always try to provide information for my customers. Yeah. But once I've done that, it's a conversation. And, you know, again, if you go into it like, hey, I want to be of service to you. I want to help you guys get back on your feet, get your roof replaced, make sure that everything is taken care of. And, you know, the insurance company does their part. Yeah. You know, and when you lay it down like that to somebody, they're more inclined to listen. They're more inclined to, hey, you know what? This guy actually sounds like he knows what he's talking about. This guy actually sounds like he's actually willing to help me. Because, you know, I mean, that in this day and age, how many people really come up to you and say, hey, man, I'm going to help you do this and do that? Yeah. They truly don't do that. Everybody is all about themselves. And for me, I've been blessed in my life to be I think the reason why I'm the way I am, I've had so many people help me. Yeah. I'm the byproduct of mentorship and people helping me. And I mean, even my ex-father-in-law took me in as a son. So, you know, when you operate like that, I'm a strong believer good things always happen.
No, absolutely. And with that being said, I have never, ever believed in a pitch. I used to think, you know, it's just funny to me, right? So you go door to door, and if you're saying it loud, proud, and, you know, in charge like you should and confident, right? You're reading off this pitch that you've memorized in your head, and you sound like a robot. You get the door slammed on you. The neighbor's outside in the front yard. you walk to the next house over, and you're going to repeat the same exact thing that they already heard you get the door slammed on you for.
Right.
So that's why personally, that's a big reason I've never believed in pitches. I believe in giving pitch outlines, right, to new sales reps so they know the information that needs to be conveyed.
So that you have somewhat of a foundation.
Right? A guideline, a foundation on where to carry it, but not a word-for-word robotic pitch that you're using on every single door. That's really a numbers game that a lot of those guys are playing. They have like a dedicated pitch word for word, and it works for some companies. Right?
Well, there's some companies that literally say, we want you to say verbatim every word on this pitch.
No, and I mean, those companies like Performance Windows, for example, right? I love that company. I got a buddy, Amari Chacon, that works over there. Oh, you know Amari, right? He just won a Golden Door selling windows. He had over $2.5 million in sales last year. It's a lot of windows, dude. But that company, Performance Windows, has a pitch that it's a non-variant, like you do not veer away from the pitch, right? And they record all their conversations on the door, which I think is an awesome thing, right? They have this software that records all their conversations on the door. So when they go back in the next morning, the managers, the sales managers are able to hear all the good conversations, all the bad conversations, and all the ugly in between, right? But they memorize the pitch word for word, and that's how they're judged in the morning meetings, is how far off they veered from the pitch.
That's interesting.
But Performance Windows has poured hundreds of thousands of dollars into developing this pitch over the last, I don't know how long the company's been open, but they poured hundreds of thousands of dollars, right, into this pitch that they've developed that works. And Performance Windows is doing amazing. I don't know where they're at in the window world of how great they are, but I've had the opportunity to go work alongside them and go talk to them and see their training and see exactly what they're doing, and talk to a lot of the sales managers, especially here in the Austin office, and some of their higher performers over in Colorado, where Amari's located. But that doesn't work for everybody, right? They've put hundreds of thousands of dollars into the development of this pitch, where the psychology of it is tweaked here and the wording is tweaked here. It's, so reading it verbatim really works for them, right? They're able to do that in mass, hitting the same neighborhoods year after year after year after year, and still sell their product, right?
Well, they've probably been in the business long enough to where they've streamlined their processes, and they've determined what really works best for them, right? So that's a part of door knocking, right? If people think, or new companies specifically think, you know what, I'd rather just invest money in marketing for this, that, or the other, right? And like we talked about earlier, you're kind of just sitting there and waiting and hoping that it works out to where you're actually seeing a benefit.
You're waiting for the leads to come to you.
But we talked about this before. We want to be a company that doesn't react. We want to be proactive. Reaction to something that goes wrong, is typically never good, right? Yeah. So, but I think by being proactive in door knocking and taking ownership of a neighborhood, like when we talk about taking ownership of a neighborhood, we're there. Yeah. We're there for like a week or two, sometimes 3 weeks. People after a while get to know that, hey, Nine Line Roofing, they're in the neighborhood. Art or Ian over there, they're owners and they're cool guys, and they'll help you through the process, right? So when you do that, I think it's an investment on our part, right, for any company really to get in there and do what they need to do to help as many people as they can. But if you don't have the process, or you don't work on your process, and more importantly, include a door knocking, talking to people and meeting people, it's going to be hard to get your company off the ground.
No, absolutely. And I think I wanted to touch a little bit on the point that it's annoying to homeowners, right? Absolutely. Done wrong, it's absolutely annoying. I mean, regardless, here's the truth. Any and all marketing that you do is annoying because it interrupts what they were intentionally focusing on. Right? Ads interrupt shows, cold calls interrupt dinner, mail clutters their mailbox, and the SMS messages that they get buzzes their phone and bugs them during the day. The truth is there is no such thing as non-intrusive marketing, right? But the difference is respect, right? And to be clear, I'm not talking about going and knocking, no soliciting doors that have the sign that clearly says, please don't bother me, right? Maybe I'll get some backlash for this, but what I do is I leave them some marketing material, right? We don't leave those flashy little door hangers or anything like that, but a little letter saying, hey, we stopped by, we seen your no soliciting sign, we respect that. I just thought I'd leave you this information. I haven't gotten any bad calls about it yet. Right. But being respectful of those doors has probably sold me more roofs than knocking on the no soliciting doors. Because I've tried both, right? I was a new guy at one point, right? And I had people that were above me saying, you just knock on the door, just knock on the door. And they use that, a lot of people throw around that. Most of those guys don't even remember putting that sign on there. Most of them don't even know that they have that sign. And I'm like, if I had a no soliciting sign on my house, I'd know, right? But young, dumb, made mistakes, and I've knocked on those doors. I've been, I wouldn't say disrespectful to homeowners, but I've definitely knocked against their wishes. Right. But I can confidently say I've sold more no soliciting doors just by being respectful of the fact that it's a no soliciting door and not knocking on their door and bothering them.
Right. Well, and the other thing is we talked about how to make door knocking count.
Yeah.
Right. So a lot of people, are still trying to embrace it. Are they comfortable with it? Probably not, especially new salespeople. And they're like, man, if there's one thing I hate, it's door knocking. It's like, they tell us that like it's a new revelation, right? Like, oh my gosh. But we know this. We already know that it's uncomfortable how it can be sometimes. But neighborhood presence, we talked about that, being in the neighborhood, right?
Yeah.
Actually talking to the homeowners. Right. Hanging flyers and stuff like that. Like you said, man, does that really do anything for us? Not too much. Talking to neighbors, watching people drive up or getting ready to leave from their house, approaching with respect, not being, not trying to scare anybody or anything like that.
Not knocking on their car window as they're...
your posture, you talked about that a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look like you don't really care, people are going to perceive that you don't really care.
Yeah.
Right. But if you appear to be a friendly person, you introduce yourself, your company, right? Your name, your company, tell them what you're doing in the neighborhood. It makes the customer feel more comfortable. And then Ring cameras, that's one thing we talked about, right? Ring cameras. Before, we didn't have Ring cameras. That wasn't a big deal. You banged on the door and you dropped, a card, a little flyer or whatever, and you took off. Well, you door knock now. I would say 70% have Ring cameras. I mean, we should open up that company, right?
Yeah.
Those guys are making some money.
Yeah.
So how you behave and how you're posturing on the Ring camera, because a lot of people are at work, or they might be at home working, right?
Yeah.
But they're not going to answer the door because they're busy, they're working. So if you say, hey, you introduce yourself on the Ring camera, my name's Ian, we're artists, or whatever, Nine Line Roofing. We're just in the neighborhood. We just want you to know that we're in the neighborhood. We're checking out the damages caused by the hail damage that we received on a certain date. And we just want you to know we're here. My telephone number is this, right? You're more inclined to get someone that's going to, one, trust you, because we were cool enough to leave our information and be civil, act normal and act nice on the camera. But there's a lot of people, and you and I both know this, that we've hired, they will go on there and act completely like goofballs.
Yeah.
Right?
No,
like,
absolutely.
oh, man, I don't want to do this. And they're actually saying, this is the last thing I want to do.
Yeah.
Right? And guess what? Are we going to get a phone call from that guy?
No, absolutely
Or those
not.
people? Absolutely not.
No.
So how you posture yourself, how you present yourself, especially on camera, is very important. For those who haven't figured that out, we figured that out real quick, didn't we?
Yeah. No, I think that builds into, and I'm happy you brought this up, but this is my favorite part, my favorite segment in talking about door knocking, period, right? This is one I harp on the most in any of our sales training meetings or anything like that. Your presence can either be a detriment or an amplifier
Agreed.
In that neighborhood, right?
Yep.
If somebody catches you on a Ring doorbell camera, sitting in front of their house on the curb smoking a cigarette, they're going to post that, right? They have all these neighborhood group chats on Facebook, neighborhood group chats. The neighborhood app, all these different types of groups that they have now where they post all of this stuff, right? And you should be acting 24/7. If you're in the neighborhood, act as if you're being recorded and somebody's going to post it online, right? Because the likelihood that you're going to be posted online somewhere in some way for your actions, whether good or bad, is going to be, it's almost guaranteed, right?
It's a reflection of you and the company, really.
Yeah. I mean, you go up to a door and you're sitting there and you look like you're praying that they don't answer once you knock on the door, right? They can see that, right? And, it's not as common nowadays where neighbors are friends and people are super neighborhood friendly, at least, in the last 10, 15 years, right? But it still happens, right? People still have neighborhood friends. They still have neighbors that are friends that they speak to. And when they, when you have one neighbor that you convinced and they said that they're going to think about it and they go over to their friend Charlie's down the street's house and he's like, no, dude, look what this dude did on my porch. He's sitting there hitting a vape, or he's sitting there, just scrolling on his phone on TikTok, slouched over on the curbside, right? One, you don't look professional, right? You look like you're getting beat up on the doors, and people don't buy from losers. That's just a cold hard fact. People do not buy from people that they think are losers, right? And you sitting in the AC for 45 minutes every 30 minutes of door knocking, right? You're parked in front of somebody's house. You look like they don't know what you're doing there, right? They don't know who you are, right? And you're sitting in front of their house playing music, playing Clash of Clans, right? They're going to catch that on video. They're going to catch that in some way, format. It's going to be talked about. So that's the biggest thing I harp on is your presence in the neighborhood is either going to amplify your presence there and going to help you dominate that neighborhood, or it's going to take the whole neighborhood from wanting to do business with you, right? Because and all it takes is one bad house, one bad knock where you knock on this door and they come out with an attitude and you reciprocate with an attitude back, right? Like we talked about, 70 to 80% of people have Ring doorbell cameras or some form of video doorbell camera, right? All it takes is that one bad interaction and that whole neighborhood will disappear from your control, right? Or from your being able to sell in that neighborhood.
Okay, so getting to salespeople, again, like we talked about, they are a reflection of our company.
Yeah.
We definitely want them to be all in the same sheet of music. We want them to be respectful to our clients. We also want them to look professional, conduct themselves in a professional manner, right? And what we don't want negative viewpoints of our salespeople, because what ends up happening is you could do the best job in the world, but if you're not a professional and you don't conduct yourself as that, as a professional, then you're not going to have good positive results.
Yeah,
and it doesn't matter. It could be the best roof that we've ever installed. At the end of the day, you have to make sure that the people that we are bringing on with our company, that they are a positive reflection.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But that's not to say I don't think anybody should fear Ring cameras, right? If you choose to view them as an amplifier, right, you're going to carry yourself in accordance. Right. If people are seeing that you're smiling, you're happy as a day, even getting the door slammed on you doesn't affect you, you're respectful, you walk away, you respect the homeowner, regardless of the negative feedback that they may have given you. They may have cussed you out, but it'll speak volumes for you if they post that and it looks like it was definitely one-sided disrespect, right? Mm-hmm. That'll speak volumes on your character. That'll speak volumes on the company and, your own values, right? Choosing to respond to negativity with kindness, right? So just want to reiterate, do not use, I don't think it's recommended for anybody to view the Ring cameras as a blocker, but more of a multiplier, right? Now, let's circle back to the offer, right? That's probably the second biggest thing, right? Because you're a good person, you can sell yourself, right? That helps volumes, right? You'll be able to still sell, regardless if your offer is the same as everybody else, right? They'll buy, because people buy from people, right? But when you get into the stage of perfecting your offer and having a different offer than everybody else, because everybody's doing the same thing right now. Everybody's giving away a free upgrade. Everybody's doing free inspections, right? What's different between Nine Line Roofing and XYZ company, right? And I think we've came up with a very interesting offer that is different, right? We're doing a lot more for the money that other people are making, but we're also selling a lot more than a lot of the other companies are. And I think most of that is due to, we train really hard on heart posture and company and presence in the neighborhoods, right? Those two factors are huge for us, those two things. But our offer is just something that, I'm not saying people who have said no are stupid, but you'd be stupid to say no to. Right. And creating that offer and being able to bring that offer to your sales reps or even to yourself if you're a one-man operation right now and making an offer that's different from the entire market, right? It's more interesting. It's more
there's
compelling.
More value.
Yeah, there's a lot more value, right?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, anyone can replace a roof, but, are you going to, make sure that it's installed to code, right? And make sure it's done properly, that the materials that are being utilized are installed properly.
Yeah.
Right? We hold our installers accountable to make sure that they do it right because we don't want to void any kind of warranty. We want to make sure that the warranty that we sell to our customers is a warranty that's going to be good as the warranty suggests, right?
Yeah.
So we see how many times we've gone to a roof that we thought wasn't replaced, but it had been replaced already, and they never even painted the boots. Yeah. They never replaced this, that, or the other, and just did things really weird. And the only thing that you and I could ever figure out with our experience is the fact that they're cutting corners.
Yeah.
Right. And I've never seen. I've been in construction all my life. I have never seen where cutting corners is a good thing for the homeowner.
I've never seen where cutting corners is. I mean, short term, cutting corners for the company on the company side. Right. I mean, obviously it benefits. You save a little bit of money here. You save a little bit of money on labor, materials. But long term, how many more jobs have you had to go back out to, or how many customers' trust have you lost because you weren't able to facilitate the warranty that you sold them, or the, excuse my language, but shitty workmanship that you did, right? How many companies have that tail light warranty where they're as soon as the job's done, there's no more contact with the homeowner. There's no more support for the homeowner. There's no ongoing anything, right? So that's why we started the maintenance program, right? Not to give away all of the sauce here, but we started that maintenance program with the hopes that we continuously have contact with the homeowners that we've already served, so that way we can become essentially the roofer for life. Now, the hope is that they get into a nicer, bigger, better roof. Not bigger, but nicer and better roof than they had previously. So I'm not hoping that they have to call me in 3 years, right? But if they do have to call me in 3 to 5 years, right, I'm still relevant and top of mind because I've been servicing their roof for the last 5 years. Why would they call anybody else?
Correct.
Right? I hold their warranties. Why would they call anybody else? Right? So,
but that's a lot about building trust, though, right? The homeowner thinks, well, look, I've had this guy replace my roof twice. And, I have a maintenance program with them, and they come out once a year to make sure everything is good. Yeah. We don't have no issues. We don't have loose shingles. We don't have any leaking going on or anything like that. And if I have any problems, I know that I can call Nine Line Roofing.
No, absolutely.
That's a huge thing. And you're right. As soon as something does happen where there is a hail damage, they're going to call us, and we're going to be there. They're going to be the first served.
Yeah, no, right? Absolutely.
Because not only are they our customers, but they're our friends.
No, absolutely. And building friends, going back to, you said it a lot earlier. You're when you're knocking on doors, you're out there to make friends, right? You're out there. Obviously we're out there to make money, but we're out there to meet people where they are and help people where they're at.
Correct.
Right. And I think that model of not being profit first, but customer first, right? Because we can make a lot more money per roof if we weren't.
Oh, there's roofing companies out there that on a $20,000 roof will charge $25,000.
Yeah.
Because they feel they can.
Yeah.
Not because they're giving you that much more value.
Yeah.
They're saying, if you want us to come and fix your roof today or tomorrow, whenever it is, we're going to charge you $25,000. We don't do that here.
Yeah. No.
We do what the insurance says that the value of that replacement is for that roof. That's what we're going to do.
Yeah.
And we're going to do it to the best of our ability.
Absolutely. I mean, we do little things, making sure the scope of work is correct, right? And getting, if we feel it's unfair to the homeowner for what they're supposed to be getting, turning it over to a PA and let a PA, like a public adjuster, do what they do, right? But yeah, you're right. We don't send inflated invoices. We don't argue about unnecessary costs, right? Unnecessary things. We're not trying to get every single dollar out of every single job that we possibly can.
There's plenty of roofers that do that.
But there's also plenty of roofers that, and this is a bit off topic, but there's plenty of roofers that are, 45 to 90 days out from getting final payments.
That's
right?
crazy. Yeah.
And that it blows my mind. I mean, we were once there, right? But we've gotten the process down to 21 days is our average payout from start to finish.
Start to finish.
Yeah. And
that's on the worst case scenario.
Yeah. And that's a public adjuster job. Granted, it doesn't go to appraisal, right? That's a public adjuster job, right? And being able to do that also provides a certain level of care to the homeowner that a lot of other people aren't able to provide. And again, this comes down to differentiating your offers. But when I say we have a 10-day install guarantee, right, where, if we can't install in 10 days from the time you file, we're going to go ahead and give you $250, right? And it doesn't always happen. It's not 100%, but that little thing of, hey, you're not going to have to stress about this for the next 2 months, like with some companies, right? Or, some companies book themselves so far out that they're 14 weeks out to install. I'm not going to say the company that I know was last year, but they were still selling roofs being 14 weeks booked out.
Yeah, that's
now,
crazy.
while that's amazing for the company, right? Think about the homeowner who signed a contract with them, not realizing that it was going to be 4 or 5 months to get installed. Right? Or what is that? That's 3 months, right? 3 to 4 months to get installed, right? That is crazy to have that hanging over your head. Literally, it's a roof, right? Hanging over your head for 3 to 4 months, knowing that it could be a bad rainstorm at any point. And if your roof truly is damaged enough, you're going to start to feel the effects of that rain coming through the roof. And I don't understand, right? So there's, I guess I can understand it from, if you're profit first, but that's neither here nor there. If your offer sounds like everyone else's, here's a general rule of thumb. If your offer sounds like everyone else's, door knocking will feel 10 times harder than it needs to be.
Right. But I think you said it correctly earlier that you said that, everybody's offering the same exact thing just about, right? I mean, it's not like it's not like you have people that are creating new inventions that's making the process that much better.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But it's for me, I feel like I'm babysitting, right? I'm babysitting the project, and I also want to make sure that it's done right because it's our name on it. Yeah. We want to make sure that it's going to be done correctly and in a timely manner, and that we don't have any issues. I always tell our customers, hey, your issues become my issues. I hate issues like that. Mm-hmm. I want to make sure it gets done right. It'd be easy for us to hire somebody to babysit the project while it's being installed. I don't like to do that. I personally like to be on the project to make sure it's going on. My worst case scenario is that I go by and I'm there for 2 hours on the most important part, right? Yeah. When we've peeled everything off down to the boards on the roof, the decking, we want to make sure that there's no damage.
Yeah.
Right? Though that's a very important important part of the install. And how many times have we been on a roof where it's been replaced 4 times and there's 4 layers of paper?
No, absolutely.
So and then come to find out, once we take off all the paper, there's anywhere from a quarter to an inch and a half gaps between the deck.
Yeah.
On deck boards.
Yeah.
Back in the 70s, that's what they used to install.
Yeah.
So, and we just got an approval through insurance to redeck the whole house.
Yeah.
That was a $12,000 job.
Yeah.
Right? Homeowner, no money out of their pocket.
Yeah.
Right? Would that have been fair for us to be the 5th roofer to just go ahead and throw on
another layer
and
of
just
felt
call it
paper?
a day and say, man, congratulations? No, that's not fair. You got to do right by people.
No, absolutely.
And that's what I like about our relationship that we have with this business that we have. We want to make sure that the quality is always going to be there. We're always going to do a good job, and we're going to make it right every time.
No, absolutely. So here's the key takeaway. Door knocking is not dead. And honest work, door knocking is not dead. It's just honest. And honest work is not popular in an industry that's addicted to shortcuts. If you're early stage, you're hungry, and you're willing to build skill instead of buying hope, via social media and marketing companies, door knocking still works. And next week, we'll talk about when door knocking should actually stop. Not stop, but your focus should shift from door knocking to other means of marketing, right?
I'm an OG, and that's the old me. The way I'm sitting nowadays, the money stayed 9 ways. I'm sipping on a latte. Why they all call me bougie? I don't want